Beep beep. Oh, what is up, guys? My name is Sam World. This is going to be episode 9 of the start to finish for UK electro house bass, whatever you want to call it. You know, lately I've been going more like F genres and just make what you want to make. So I apologize to some of you guys if it doesn't sound UK bass enough. I was using this as sort of as a reference, which is a playlist on Spotify called Bassline Bangers, which has stuff that sounds like this, but also stuff that sounds a little bit more underground and stuff that sounds hella electro house. So, you know, that's the cool thing about music. I think you can definitely have little kind of influences from every genre and make something. But again, I hope this series has helped you guys out in figuring out certain things from mixing all the way down to the composition of a track and keeping it interesting and moving it forward. Now, today is going to be the last day for the series, so I just want to get a couple of things fixed, and I'm going to call it an end to the series. And the last thing I need to do is just one, add a little drum fill with this thing. 2, do a master on it to essentially go, okay, that's it, we are done with it. So what I'm going to do, first off, is just go to this part of the song here. And we do have also a 9 still on it, but we're going to be taking it off for the master. But for now, I just want to create something different than this fill here that we have, which is from a sample pack, and just make it our own by creating our own. Now, we do have a sound shifter pitching that snare build up, obviously, so that it gets that. So what we're going to do first off is just automate it back down to where it needs to be. And let's get a close-up look just to make sure we're not altering that spot there. We got to put that at 0.50. From there, let's just go in and kind of make something. So I'm going to do Control J on that part just so that we separate away from everything. So every time I press play, it starts from that position. Yeah, and it's just something simple. You really, you don't... And then maybe bring in the clap there. Just keep it simple. Going with whatever comes into my head, initial idea. I know we have this little shot here, so maybe we could use that as well. And then have this more hit here. And then maybe the snare build doesn't need to hit down. Sounds kind of cool. Sounds weird, right? Because it speeds up there and then it kind of goes down. Just automate that back to 0 there. Just put that there, and then we'll have it there, so that way it's just in this part where it's centered. Okay, let's go to the I'm gonna leave that one there just for the hell of it, but maybe we can. Maybe switch that one up. Just need to find the drum fill again. Right here. Some shit like that. That would work. Well, let's just put it. Maybe like pitching it up and down like so. I don't like these. Boop, boop. There, the bleep. I mean, that's my signature sound. Beep, beep. So
crank it up, crank it at the bass level, crank it at the bass level, crank it up, crank it at the bass level, crank it at the bass level, crank it up, crank it at the.
Maybe simple delay or something to that sound on that part there, just to make it not kind of go away. It's so sudden.
Bass level, crank it up, crank it up, crank it up, crank it up,
Ping pong it and
crank it up, 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 crank it up.
those delays are always satisfying.
Crank it up. Crank it at the bass level. Crank it.
Usually if I'm iffy on the volume, I like to lower down the volume of my monitors to a point where you can still hear it, and then you can kind of gauge a different perspective on how loud it sounds like at a lower volume. You know, because volume, the way you perceive your song as well, when you turn it down versus when it's super loud, changes. Supposedly there's like a sweet spot to it, but I always find lowering it down, sometimes you can notice maybe the close hat is too loud, or a certain element stands out like crazy at lower volume, so that should help you sometimes in just getting the levels right.
Crank it at the bass level.
Okay. The other thing I also wanted to add was a bit of swing to kind of give it, and we did have one which I should have put, so I'm just going to do that right now. Just add this groove to these guys, just to make sure that we get a little bit of swing added to them there, that way they don't sound so boring or static. I guess that's the good way to. They get a little bit more flavor into it compared to when we are on the other side of the track. You can hear it in the first few hits of that close hat. It gives a bit more flavor in terms, again, a bit more swing to it. So I like that. So we're just going to add that. PC 16. I'm sure there's a way you could do it just to have it on there all, but I'm just going to do it just like. Okay, keeping it simple on the outro and intros. Okay, cool. With that out of the way, we can now focus on doing a master for the track. Okay. Now I know, the track, it's kind of like pretty much done in my perspective. There's more that we can definitely do to it. However, my purpose with the series was just to show you guys kind of like a guideline on start to finish on how we would approach everything. I feel like we've done that, so it's finally time to get to the last thing you're probably going to be doing in your track, which is the master. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that Ozone 9. Now, this is going to make it sound quieter, and again, I apologize if my voice is too loud for the volume of the music. A lot of the reasons why I run Ozone 9 doing these kind of videos and tutorials sometimes is just for the fact that it's too fucking quiet to hear. But there really shouldn't be that much of a difference in terms of the mix if we did a good job with it, as the preset that I use for Ozone 9 is more of a loudness increaser. So it's just a limiter and a compressor that's just boosting. That's all it is. So again, we're going to start with the master. Now, a lot of times the master, I always like to start it with an imager. The reason for that is a lot of times there might be sounds or things that pass, just like, let's say you're low end, right? You might have stuff that has a super wide low end below 100, like a impact or something of those sorts. And personally, me, I'm a fan of the idea of everything below a certain frequency, let's say like 120 or 100 should be fully mono. I just find that whenever I hear mixes with wide bass lines or wide sub basses, it doesn't sound as tight as a mix with mono sub basses, in essence centered sub basses or sub frequencies. This is all preference. Again, these are just theories. They're not rules set in stone. You could definitely make a track with a wide bass and make it sound good, I'm sure, if you tried. But again, for me, I always like that vibe just because I know it's going to work everywhere in terms of the low end. But what I like to do is I like to go to the loudest part of the track, put the imager like so, maybe 4 or 5 bands, depending on how surgical you want to get with it. And then just hit learn and let it play out. So we're going to go probably around here and just learn it. Once it's learned, I like to solo each band. So here we have the low. You can see there is a bit of width to it, but my phase correlation here, which is telling me my mono compatibility, if the left and right signals are adding up at that frequency range we are in, are essentially in phase. If they're not in phase, what tends to happen when you sum it down into mono, they're going to cancel out and it might sound a little weird. So for me, it's always good to kind of maintain. You don't have to have a straight line like this, because it kind of does kill your low end a bit, but at least just a bit. Okay. From there, we check the mid. Now, it's your job to hear this and go like, I want this to be a little wider. I want this to be lower. Now, it's important to note that when you use the imager on your master and you push this up, it's not going to make sounds that are mono wider. In fact, it's not unless you have the stereo eyes on, which is in essence going to include a little bit of like, let's call it the Haas effect. It's not the Haas. Native Instrument, or sorry, Isotope says it's like a better version of it where it doesn't mess up the phase. So for me, the way I like to do it, it's sort of like staircases. We slowly come up and up and up. So the lower frequency, the more centered, and the higher it goes, the more wider it can sound. It sounds a lot better, and you can try this out in any way or form. I'm not saying do it this way all the time because every track is different. But with this one here, it seems to follow the rules that I would like to set for myself. So we're just centering them a bit. We're not fully monoing anything or centering it. We're just centering a little bit. Bandwidth 3 tends to be more of your mid-high. For this, I definitely like to have a wider response, like 15. And then finally, the super high end. You can see it's more wide. You can definitely push that one a little further if we want. So that way when we hear it now, it sort of opens up your mix and it makes it sound a lot cleaner. The reason for that is that we're just making like space and kind of making room for all the frequencies to be in a certain way. I call it the ladder effect, but again, like I said, you don't have to do it this way all the time. You can definitely mess with that if you want. Like you could say, oh, I want that doesn't sound half bad, but again, I want more of a mono clubby track, which tends to be a little bit more centered. Okay. With that out of the way, we go on with the EQ. Now with the EQ, the whole purpose of the EQ is to fine tune. If you're finding yourself doing huge changes, like boosting the shit out of your highs or boosting the shit out of your lows, then you probably should go back to the mix and fix those things. Now, I have confidence in that we did a really good mix. However, it's up to you to hear the track and decide whether you have enough low end or not. You can definitely use stuff like span, which I've shown in previous videos before, to just see the way that your track looks on span. However, don't fully trust it here and there, because this is telling you how your frequencies are spread out, but it's not telling you if it sounds clean, if it's in phase and stuff like that. However, for me, as you can see, we have a lot of highs, good amount of mids. However, my bass is sort of on the bottom end. Now, I find usually there's a few frequencies that are the loudest in most tracks, and that's usually going to be your low end, hitting maybe around here. It should be up there with these guys, and then your high frequencies and your mid highs. Anything else like this, you might question it a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix those. So I already know, I'm going to get rid of everything below 30 hertz with a relatively safe slope. What that means is I'm not doing like a super hard cut, but just a safe one. Okay, because the harder the cut, the more you fuck up the phase around that frequency. From there, I'm going to boost a little bit of my lows, probably a wider Q on it. We don't want to do super surgical, as that tends to, again, mess up more of your phases and stuff. And it doesn't sound musical. In fact, it sounds a little more it's hard to explain, but it just doesn't sound right. So we're gonna go in, boost a little bit of those lows to get them up. Track gets a lot more energy this way, and you can feel the low end a little better. From there, I am gonna go in, and again, those mids are right here are bothering me a little. Okay, maybe like 2 dB of gain reduction. So -2, that's about, and let's just increase here about 2 dB. The last one I'm gonna do is around the mid highs. Just audition that. Push it a little bit more. So what I wanted was my low end to be up there with, again, these here. Now I'm gonna reduce this just a little bit more. Now, you can see how you can kind of vibe with it more. It has more groove to it. So that's what I kind of wanted to get with that. So from there, we're going to use a glue compressor at a ratio of 2. Whenever you want to gel sounds, it's better to use a 2-to-1 ratio. What you keep in mind here is what's going to happen is that my glue compressor is already going to trigger without me even moving. And that is totally fine. This is where you're gonna essentially shape your track, but what you should be doing more is just lowering dynamics of the loudest and the part of your song, so you can get it louder. The reason for this is usually the loudest thing in your track is what's gonna trigger the limiter as you pull it down more, and it's what's usually gonna cause your track to distort faster, so that you can get as loud as you want. So that's why we use a compressor on the master. A lot of times too, you can also decide to put like a pump effect if that's what you want. However, majority of the time, it's best to keep it simple if you don't know what you're doing, in all honesty. Around there seems to be good. From there, I'm going to utilize a clipper. Now, the reason for the clipper is because, first off, a while back, I had a couple of friends that went to like Aid and stuff, and they told me one of the things they saw a lot of people doing, this was like a year or two ago, was utilizing a clipper on the master instead of utilizing 2 limiters, because most of the time we use 2 limiters to get as loud as we can, because the more work we make a plug-in or like a piece of hardware do, the more likely it is to essentially distort or overload, in essence, which some plugins will essentially saturate, give you more of an analog distortion or saturation effect, whilst other ones will sound like crap. So what I'm going to use is Fat Filter Pro L after the clipper. I'm also going to bring up a loudness plugin just to know where I'm at, because right now I'm essentially blind in terms of what loudness I'm at, just because a lot of people will use this as a term for loudness. The master meter, which you probably can't see, it'll be hitting 0 dB and they're like, okay, that's it. But you can still get louder when you push stuff, add more highs, make stuff wider. So that's why we use LUFS to tell us how loud we actually are, which is the loudness unit. And most tracks that I've referenced in this style, again, from the Baseline Banger Spotify playlist, which I heard, are going to be around -4, -5. Some even go up to -2. So we're going to test out how loud we can get our track, which sadly, some people don't like it, but some people fucking love it because it makes your track just fucking bang. So what we're going to do is just push the gain up until we start seeing our saturator here light up. That's how we know we've reached a peak. And we can push it a little further, and then the rest will be up to the Fab Filter Pro L to just get it loud. Okay, around there, let's put it at 4 dB. So that should be a good spot to have it at. And then the rest will come in with the Fab Filter Pro L. So we're just gonna use this guy and pull. Now what I want to do is I also want to check the breakdown of the song.
Crack it up the bass level. Crack it up the bass level. Crack it up the bass level. Crank it up. Crack it up the bass level. Bass level. Crack it up the bass level. Crank it up. Crack it up the bass level. Bass level. Crack it up the bass level. Crank it up.
Fast forward. All right, cool. Now there's a lot more to mastering, of course. Like if you feel like the track could use a little bit more like mid-lows, then there's more you could do, like a Fab Filter Saturn, and you could boost the mid-lows with another EQ. However, I want to show you guys some things. The thing is that every little thing you do in your master should have a purpose. You're making it sound better or not. So if I take off this EQ8, the master should sound shittier or should not sound as good. So if we go here, we'll go actually here and take it off. You can kind of see the difference that it does. That EQ8 right there is doing so much for the track in terms of just little 2 dB increments here and there. Decrease, increase, just really helped bring it to life. Notice when it's off. Now notice when it's on. It's just so much better, so much cleaner, and it's a lot crispier too. And we didn't even add air. It's just, again, I found this frequency here was just a bit too much, again, peaking up. So that was kind of a questionable thing. I was like, I don't know about that. Low end was just pretty straightforward. Once you know how to utilize span and you get used to seeing a lot of tracks going through it, you will know how majority of the time everything should spread out in terms of the frequency there. And then you could take off the clipper, but it's just going to make it quieter. Okay. Now, like I said, there's more to it. Like, for instance, I could also come in with an MB. Let's say I feel like the kick is just too fucking punchy and it's just fucking up shit. I can always come in with an MB and target that click of the kick and just compress it, no attack, because I'm obviously trying to decrease that. Okay, so as you can see there, now we play it from here. Notice how the kick kind of gets squashed a bit, so it doesn't really punch a lot. From there, you would kind of fine tune that so that you get a little bit of control on it, taming it. So there's a lot more to mastering, but like I say, guys, a lot of the times when it comes to mastering, getting your track to be loud to where most tracks are that you are going to be in the same genre, it's all you need, and a clean mix. You know, it doesn't have to be like super delicious and shit. Like, as long as it's audible, it's not harsh to listen to, it makes sense, it has energy, you should be fine. Everything from there on is just all about, again, taste. Some people like boosting the highs more, which I personally don't because it makes it hard on my ears. But again, some people do. The way I feel about it is that if someone's playing your track live at a show and they feel like it needs more highs, they can do it. A lot of car stereos, someone's hearing your track in their car stereo, a lot of people like to boost the lows and the treble, but not the mids. So you also have to account for that they're going to do that. So again, you kind of mix in a way where that makes sense. However, I will say this, there's a lot of tracks out there with questionable mix downs. They still sound good, but the important thing is, again, to get a finished product like this, have it be up there, clean, good vibes. That's all you can ask for. Of course, if you have too much low end and it sounds distorted as fuck, then that's another thing. But just keep your master simple and you will be good to go. With that being said, guys, I am going to end the track here. That is going to be it. So I'll play it one way through, check it out. And again, if we hear some discrepancies, maybe we can fix really fast as we are hearing it, and we should be good to go.
Crank it up the bass level.
That pluck is a little too loud there. You can kind of see it peaking like a lot. So we're going to tone it down a little bit there. So let's... See, a little bit more balance now.
Crank it up, crank it up the bass level, bass level, crank it up the bass level, crank it up, crank it up the bass level, crank it up the bass level, crank it up. Crank it up the bass level, crank it up, crank it up the bass level, crank it up. Crank it up. Bass level. Crank it up. Crank it up the bass level. Crank it up.
Okay, and then the outro. I'll let it play. Okay, cool. So as you guys saw, that's going to be the track. Now, there are a couple things, and what I hope with every track that you guys do, you always hear it back, and you just go like, I would switch this, I would do this, I would do that. So on this track, there's just a little bit like adding effects here and there, like on the low end, when the low end goes away there. I mean, I know certain tracks do it, and they don't care. That's the cool thing about it. I care too much where I'm like, no, I need to fucking add effects there and here and here and here. Now, so again, finish the tracks up. That's the best thing that you can do. Look back on them, write notes like, oh, I could have done this better. Next track, I'm going to do this differently, blah, blah, blah. It's always good to improve, guys, but that is going to be the start to finish series. I did want to kind of go back and do more of a night bass drop. The issue is that I have to start moving forward with the tutorial, so I can't be sticking around for the series too much. But again, I hope you guys found this useful in any way possible for beginner to intermediates. And I hope that you got something out of it, maybe the mastering or the transitioning. As always, guys, thank you guys for your support. I wanted to do this, and I did force myself to finish it, even when I was a little bit down on it. But I hope that this inspires you guys to make your own little night bass track, UK bass, electro house, whatever the hell you want to call it. And I'll catch you guys next time. You take care, and you guys have an amazing rest of your day.